I've booked over 2,230 calls from cold email and LinkedIn in 2025 for myself and my clients, including one client that made over $500,000 in directly attributable revenue and even got acquired. Today, I'm going to break down the infrastructure, how to find winning campaigns, and how to go from reply to call on your calendar that actually shows up. We'll cover the 80-20 without all the fancy clay-brained BS, so that you can start booking qualified calls from outbound in 2026 and the next 30 days. The first thing we need to cover is infrastructure. If you don't have the correct infrastructure, you can't deliver to the primary inbox, and everything else you do will not matter, period. If you can't deliver, everything else is screwed. So what kind of infrastructure do you need? Well, you're gonna need a top-of-the-line sequencer. I would recommend Email Bison, but you're gonna have to apply to join. There's a private sequencer across 12 million emails. They came out on top and get 2 times the reply rate of things like SmartLead and Instantly. That's what we use. That said, SmartLead and Instantly are still fantastic options. Just use those if you can't gain access yet. You're going to need 2.5 times your required infrastructure. The reason you need extra infrastructure is infrastructure burning is not a matter of if, but when. When you get your infrastructure, you're going to want to diversify it. By diversify, I mean go with multiple providers and multiple inbox providers. Go with someone with repute that's been around for a while, that sets up quickly. We personally go with providers like Zapmail for speed, Hypertide also for speed, as well as other backup providers like Cheap Inboxes and InboxKit. The reason we go with these providers is because they've shown time and time again that they have fantastic customer service, they have reasonable pricing, and they're always dropping interesting new perks that help speed up the time it takes to set up new inboxes. This is especially important because if you ever run into a cataclysmic event, we're talking everything banned all at once, you're going to want a provider that is able to spin up inboxes fast so that you do not lose pipeline and you don't ruin your forecasting. Very, very important as you scale your RevOps as a business. In terms of how much infrastructure, you want enough to be able to send at least 1,000 emails per day on day one. What is day one? Day one is going to be 21 days after you initially set up your inboxes to account for warming. We'll go into warming settings later on in this video and actually very shortly. This means that you'll be able to find winning angles within 1 to 2 weeks. And lately for our clients, we find them in 48 hours or less because we hit the ground running with 12 tests on day one. This means we can get through iteration cycles extremely quickly, find winners and spread them out to the losers. And we'll talk more about this in a little while. But for the 4 clients that started with us this month, all of them were able to book calls within 48 hours, including one having 3 calls booked in just 8 hours. Beyond this, you want to be able to reach your market once every 60 to 90 days. This is because everyone forgets the email that they just read. And if you're like us, I would even recommend that you use fake personas. These can just be random Latina names and some nano banana generated images. The reason you may want to do this is because by doing this, you can actually protect your reputation. All of a sudden, any mistake that happens in your sequencing, especially early on, can just be chalked up to, or if your messaging is off while you test, can just be chalked up to an assistant making a silly mistake or an intern or a new hire. This also lets you call your leads without being the founder being the one calling the leads. Or if you are a founder calling the leads, which we'll talk about later, you'll be able to set the frame very well. Now, once you figure that out, and you get through the figure shit out phase, you want to divide it by 48 or 72. So you take your market, you divide it by 48 or 72, depending on whether you want to send for 60 days or 90 days. That means if you have a market of 30,000, you divide by 48. That number is now the number of emails that you want to be able to send per day as a minimum. And if you have a sequence that's working for 2 or 3 steps, you need to double and triple that number. Typically, we do 2 or 3 step sequences. Personally, I send 6 days per week for winning offers with big markets. That's why we do 48 and 72, which accounts for 6 days of sending per week. If your market is small, you only want to send on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Rockstar, that's where we see you want your warming phase to be 21 to 28 days, but the longer, the better. If you can afford to warm for longer, I would recommend doing that. This is also why I recommend setting up additional infrastructure. If you send day one with half your infrastructure or less than half, you can then send at day 30 with infrastructure that has now been warming for 51 days. That infrastructure is going to perform like a rock star. That's where we see 4 to 8% reply rates. And that's where we start really starting to conquer markets. You ramp your warming every 3 days and you do that on repeat until you reach 20 sends per day with your warming. Start at 3, scale to 20, increase by about 3 per time that you increase the amount. It's a very confusing way to put that. Set your reply rate to between 60 and 80%. Most platforms, by the way, if you set it to 20, they'll handle the ramp up for you. But to be safe, I would do it manually yourself, especially the first time to make sure nothing goes wrong. When you go live, at day 21, you're going to want to start with 5 emails per day or less. Sometimes we start with 3 if we know we're going to be going after a hard to target market. The second thing I want to say here is that do not be afraid to send to personal emails, especially if you're sequencing to local leads. This isn't going to burn your infrastructure any faster. The only thing that you want to make sure you remove from your sending are MX gateways like Barracuda, Mimecast, and Proofpoint. The reason you may want to remove these, and excuse me, these would be security gateways, is because they actually block your sends and auto-categorize you as spam. So by sending to these, you're reducing your likelihood of reaching other inboxes, especially in the early stages. To segment these out very simply, use a provider like LeadMagic to validate your email lists, throw them in a Google Sheet, and just do a formula to exclude those vendors as MX providers before you upload to your campaigns. From there, you want to scale to 12 slowly over the course of 2 weeks, but do not scale before you have a campaign that has traction. Very shortly, we'll cover what traction metrics look like as we move into how to set up winning campaigns and how to test towards having a winning offer. You want to keep going until stuff breaks, though. Do not listen to any gurus. There is no absolute tried and true rule to doing this stuff. We have inboxes where we will send 20, 30, 40 emails per day. We do a rule of thumb of 12, and then we scale up from there slowly as inboxes continue to age. We always want to be careful not to have big jumps because big jumps aren't very believable. When you set up your domains, set them up from Porkbun. Porkbun often has huge sales. Go with .com domains, .co domains, and even .xyz, .info, and .org domains if you would like to. .com is always going to be the safest. We typically use any domains we can get our hands on when we're scaling aggressively. But in the early stages, start with things that are reliable. Set up alerts from Porkbun via their API to make sure that you keep on top of their sales via Slack or Telegram notification if you'd like. Very simple to set up. Once you have those domains, put 2 to 3 inboxes per domain, and Zapmail is going to handle pretty much the entire process for you. When you source your list, keep it simple and use something like AIArc. And when you're sourcing lists, always have a conversation with the data. You want to talk back and forth with the data as you add keywords, prioritizing keywords and industries to make sure that you guys aren't actually overdoing it. And if you just listen to the data and you look at what it's giving you, and you create maybe lookalikes of your closed one via ChatGPT Deep Research, you'll start off with enough keywords where you'll be able to hit the ground running. And it'll be a simple back and forth of adding constraints, almost like how you would build a prompt. It's the same concept as how you would build a list in something like AIArc. Use LeadMagic to find and validate emails because they'll also clean your data for you if you upload CSVs. Now, that's basically the infrastructure. If you use that infrastructure, you will deliver on day one if you follow all of those rules. These are the rules that we've been using for the last year. And if anything ever goes wrong, you have backup infrastructure because you bought extra so that you can make sure you can start sending right away and learning from your market. One simple thing that was said in a transcript. The offer is the 80-20 of your outreach, but not in the way that Hormozi would describe it or how people think Hormozi is describing it. If you haven't seen my video on offers, I would recommend you check it out. And I'm sure my YouTube person will put that video somewhere in the top right for you to click. But the idea here is that your offer needs to be framed around their current situation. It isn't this race to the bottom thing. The number one thing you need to do is not fall in love with an offer. The market will tell you what they care about. You need to test everything. Test the offers you hate, test the offers you love, and do not fall in love with an offer and continue testing it into the ground when it's not working. You must tap into your own unique taste and perspective, and you must pull from call transcripts if you have them. These are where the gold is. We had a client that was able to book 22 calls for a $100,000 to $200,000 LTV deal, very high ticket, off of one simple thing that was said in a transcript. My ink heads are drying out. That ink head dryout issue was abstracted out into a $3 million per year problem on average, which meant that now their product was a no-brainer investment for any business they reached out to. Use your sales call transcripts. You have to tap into your own unique taste in the sense of what is said is not always what is understood. Hormozi has this great thing where everyone has a bridge to cross or a gap to cross. And the number of stumps that exist on the way across that bridge are all down to your unique experiences and perspective. Use that. In the world of AI, taste is the final mode. Describe this are around pain points and outcomes and worldview alignment. The first place to test an offer is via pain points and outcomes. Personally, I would simplify your testing down to 30 to 40 word statements, literally just asking them if you did a thing, would they be interested? Do not add guarantees. Do not do it for free. Do not do anything fancy with that. Just make sure that they understand that if you did a thing, are they interested? Because that will give you sound testing. testing. The reason you want to use Lead Magic for processing your lists is because it will find contacts, validate the emails to make sure you deliver to the inbox and get rid of invalid emails. It'll keep you below bounce rate thresholds. It'll also format your data, plus do a variety of other things such as finding personal emails. It really is a fantastic all-in-one tool. We've been using it for the last 3 years to find and enrich emails, and it's one of our #1 tool providers. Now, back to offers. You have pain points and you have outcomes. The types of pain points you have are always going to be mostly around gaining money or winning back time. The way you describe this comes down to the way you frame the offer. You don't want to just say, I will save you 70%, 40%, increase 40%, decrease 40%, whatever. Right? The reason you don't want to frame your offer in this way is because it means nothing. Your goal with an offer should be to find a unique mechanism that aligns with their worldview. The more you can align your offer with their worldview, the better you will do. Don't worry about all this. I'm going to provide you guys a full prompt for writing your cold emails that we've used for the last 6 months for writing 90% of our sequences. And it should let you hit the ground running with offer testing. You'll just have to give your own unique perspective, research, and sales transcripts in order to be able to do that. I'll do a full video on this soon, but basically the worldview alignment is the framing of your offer. It's your one-of-one perspective on the industry and market that makes you a category of one. Some examples of that would be only targeting founders who do founder-led content with your offer and framing the outcomes it creates around that. I'll give you a hint here because I don't want to give away my client's offer, because that specific targeting is helping my client close at a 50% close rate because the alignment is so high that they enter the call ready to buy. When you think about worldview alignment, you should think about what they're already actively investing in or what certain data is telling you about them. For instance, a old founder is going to have a different worldview than a founder with a lean team. A solo founder is going to have a different worldview than a founder that has a partner, right? And so on and so forth. You need to tap into that unique world that they have so you can feel like a trusted expert. That will make your offers resonate much, much more, and your ask will become a no-brainer to them. Spending time with you means spending time with someone who understands their situation better than them and therefore is worthwhile to talk to. You're a trusted expert if you align with their worldview. When you test pain points and outcomes, keep it to one thing. So the easiest way to test your offer is something like this. If I could help you identify the exact message that resonates to target market, right? As a unique variable in this case, I would definitely do in the next 45 days. So you could use it on your ads and founder-led content to make sure it resonates to who you want buying from you. Would that be interesting? And then I would go and adjust that to make sure it's at an 8th grade reading level. And I would implement something we're going to talk about shortly called See-Feel Touch Words. And then I might go to a different outcome. Hey, First Name, I know you're doing content already. You have hundreds of people engaging with you every day. If I could help you send relevant messages on LinkedIn and email to all the people in your market engaging with you, to send them a lead magnet or an intro offer. And if you scrape their website, you can find out what those might be, right? To get more calls of the content you're already posting. Would that be interesting? Would that be helpful? Would that be worth a discussion, right? Keep the call to action the same and focus on call to action testing as a secondary thing to offer testing. But that's the 80-20, and that's what you should be doing. Now, you can't write because you've been using Whisperflow too much. That's a problem everyone has. So it's actually a good thing because speaking text, the text is actually better than writing because it will automatically be conversational. But here's a prompt you can use, and I'll make sure this is available at the end of the video. If I don't, take a screenshot using the screenshot tool, snipping tool, and then use the transcribe sequence. But basically what this is going to do is it's going to help you write an offer that aligns with the worldview of your target market, even if you don't know them very well. The more context you can provide this prompt, the better it will perform. When you run this prompt, I would actually run it in 2 steps. I would have step 1, which is planning, and step 2, which is executing if you want the best results. Basically, what this is going to do is give you initial offers, and it's going to give you expanded on offers. Test them all, and the ones that perform the best should be your first step. You can have your expansion versions as the second step of your campaign. The second step is basically going to expand on the first step in a thoughtful way and potentially include some case studies. You'll notice here that I'm not telling you to include very many case studies at all. The reason is because for the most part, case studies aren't going to do much to help you identify who you should be selling to. A case study only means so much. It doesn't tell you about offer, pain point, anything. When you find an offer that's working, that's when you introduce a case study as a split test within the cadence. Social proof is not something people care about because every business is different. There's only certain buyers that care about about social proof. So what's better to focus on is your unique perspective on the market and creating your own stealth offer. We call them stealth offers because it's an offer that can only be uncovered through testing. It's the offer your competitors didn't even know they could make. That's what we do here at LeadGrow. If you want to figure out your stealth offer with us, we do 90-day sprints with many of our clients in order to unbundle their market and identify the exact offer that resonates so they can scale it into all of their other go-to-market motions. And of course, get meetings over the line. From one thing, know 10,000 things. This is one. Once you find a winning offer, your job is only to change the frame, the social proof, or the CTA. Those are the main things to test. Almost everything else is just fluff. These things can be tested with humor. They can be tested with intro lines at that point. It may be worth introducing, but your intro line must add to the frame, okay? Saw you do founder-led content is a relevant intro line. You might have to scrape that. Saw you posted 12 blogs this month. That is a relevant intro line. Maybe you mentioned one of the blogs. Once you find a winner, and what a winner looks like, most importantly, is an 8% positive reply rate or higher, unless your market is absolutely dummy thick and you can just blast, okay? Typically, a winner is going to be a minimum of 8% positive reply rate. For us, we have winners that range from 12 all the way up to 73% positive reply rates on cold markets. It's very market to market, but our goal in general is to find something that we can send to almost anyone horizontally in the framing of the offer and then apply it to their unique situation and get a minimum of a 15% positive reply rate. With this, we typically see between 3 and 12x ROIs on outbound for our clients. This is scalable. That means you can start turning up your infrastructure and letting shit fly. Add more infrastructure if you can handle it, send more, and just make sure you're doing a lot of variation and a lot of spin tax. And please, please, please use the Mailmeteor spam checker to make sure you're not sending spam words and sending your infrastructure into the toilet. Feed the winner plus the target market to Claude 4.5. This winner is going to tell you a lot about what you can do with other markets. One of my favorite authors and favorite just historical figures, Miyamoto Musashi, and my favorite quote from him is, "From one thing, know 10,000 things." This is one of the number one things we do with all of our clients. We take something that works in one market, we digest exactly why, and then we find ways through deep research to apply it to the other markets that we're already targeting that aren't quite winning. We then make many variations of this offer to avoid fingerprinting so that email service providers don't catch on to the specific structure that we're sending and start marking us as spam. And then we do mini tests to eke out that next 4, 5, 6%, that last 20% of the Pareto's principle. This is where lead magic comes in handy. Engaged leads mean nothing unless you actually respond to them quickly and get them booked in. At the end of the day, you're almost never going to close something over just email. But before I move on to this, I wanted to come back to one thing. If you can't, for the life of you, figure out any offer that is working, literally anything, please do an intro offer. For some reason, that's not showing up in this because Gamma forgot to add it. But an intro offer is basically like your last resort. Your intro offer will be something from your sales process that people find valuable. Your intro offer will be something from your onboarding process that people find uniquely valuable, or something that you just deliver as part of your core service that is systemizable and cheap to deliver. If all else fails, offer to send someone a Loom about your offer. I saw something interesting. Can I send you a Loom about it? This will give you boots on the ground, live feedback to people watching a video about you. You can look at those analytics and see where they drop off, and you'll learn exactly what you need to be saying to get people interested in your offer, and you can apply those learning to campaigns. People will always say yes to receiving a custom Loom. This is the easiest way to make sure you can get market feedback when you really just can't figure anything out. When I first started my agency, through sending Looms and only Looms to 3,000 people, I booked my first 6 clients in 30 days. So, perfect. This was the intro offer slide. I don't know how I managed to skip it, but yeah. This is basically what you need to do. Now, what to do when they respond. When they respond, you need to respond as fast as possible. You literally need to be a nice guy experiencing sexting for the first time. Like, your turnaround time is going to be absolutely instantaneous. You're going to drop everything. Buzz, I need to jump on this. To do this, set up Slack alerts. Almost every ESP has native Slack integrations to make sure you can alert yourself. If Slack doesn't work, use the webhook to alert yourself somewhere else. If you can't figure that out, ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, they will do it for you. We're in the world of AI. It is a wonderful place to be. From there, you want to immediately enrich their phone number. This is where lead magic comes in handy. You can set up a simple API request to enrich the phone number of the lead as the reply comes in and route that to your Slack channel so that when you go to reply, you can immediately call them after. Messenger. For calling software, feel free to use something like WhatsApp if you don't have anything else. Use Zoom calls if you'd like. But for my business, we use OpenPhone because it's easy and accessible, and it has a very open API. Set the frame by saying, my assistant told me you were interested in X. Something like this. Hey, first name? Oh, yeah, it's Mitch. My assistant told me you were interested in X. So wanted to give you a quick call just before I head out the door to my next appointment. I think you were saying that XYZ, is that right? Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, so to be honest, yada yada, go through your kind of warm calling script. And basically what you want to say throughout that script is, we've been helping a few people kind of like you with outcome, but I'm not really sure if it's even a fit for your current situation. What we typically do is a short consult where I look at what you're doing, give you some things from best practices that we've seen with client X and Y, and then we can just have a quick conversation to see if you're a fit for the system that's worked for, all these other people. Does that sound okay for tomorrow? Tomorrow. Yeah, tomorrow. I'm looking at my calendar here. I've got 2 and 3 p.m. ET. 2 p.m. And the same email where my assistant was talking to you on is okay? Yeah, that's all right. Perfect. Book them in and do not stop following up until they agree to a meeting, especially if they already said yes to a meeting. This is very important. Follow up with value, humor, and just generally to get them on a call. If they are a very high quality lead, this is where you can actually just follow up with a Loom. Or, as I like to do, I send them my YouTube videos. Hey man, here's a video of a similar business that we did some stuff with. Hey man, I noticed that you guys have a lot of website visitors. Here's how you can turn them into campaigns to send to by de-anonymizing them. Just make it relevant and fast. Turn your sales call transcripts into newsletters. Opt them into the newsletter. Value bomb them into submission. Another thing you can do here is take your most winning content and then just expand on it with AI and turn it into a newsletter as well. Okay? This is going to be the number one way to get your booking rates from rock bottom up to 30, 40, and even as high as 50% depending on your offer. If you have an intro offer, make sure your intro offer actually gets them on a call if you can. If not, at the least, make sure they have skin in the game. So that means filling out a form of some sort if you want to give them a creative. The number one way, and I'm going to give you guys one little final hint here. The number one way to create outlier offers outside of really knowing a market is humor. We've had campaigns where we literally just do emojis like eyes, mouth emojis. We've had campaigns where we just say silly things like deck pics. We have a campaign live right now that's the subject line is 3 sizes that day. And it's all around the idea of the Grinch and how we want to make, there's a specific outcome grow 3 sizes that day. Humor and your uniqueness wins out overall. Make sure your taste gets across the table and make sure that you use very specifically, and this from a friend of mine, Vlad, make sure you use see, feel, touch words. Very important. You want to help them uncover. That's something that uncovering something hidden, right? You want to be like putrid, right? Putrid could be the way you're positioning against the other outcome. Putrid, reputation risking LinkedIn outreach, founder-led LinkedIn outreach, right? Not like those emails you receive, those putrid messages you receive from in-mail requests on LinkedIn, right? These are see, feel, touch words. They make people actually like visualize what you're saying. And that's one of the best ways to make someone actually understand your offer, especially when those see, feel, touch words align with their worldview. For a farmer, your see, feel, touch might be, it's almost like year after year of cloudy weather and no rain. What's that going to do to your crops? Right? What we do, now you're introducing your offer, right? And then the final tip I'm going to give you guys is make it about them, not about you. Those are going to be the number one ways to make things happen. That's the number one way to start booking calls in the next 30 days. And if you need help, book a call with me. We can talk about your 90-day sprint assessment. We're already onboarding 3 clients in January. We only do 4 per month. So if you'd like to be one of them, now's the time. Take care.